Dear colleagues, I can see female colleagues and male colleagues. Thank you for your presence at our session. And we are restarting. And our first speaker, Carolyn Levis, a plastic surgeon. I think Carolyn will introduce herself. So welcome and be prepared to ask some questions.
Canada. I've led the examination board for a number of years, and now I'm the chair of the specialty committee, which sets standards for plastic surgery training in Canada. I've had wonderful opportunities through my surgical career, and much of that also has revolved around my involvement in global surgery initiatives, both formally in training as well as doing various outreach programs such as the one that I'm involved with here in Lviv this week, and then Lutsk next week. So I was asked to speak about mentorship as legacy. So mentorship, very simply, is the guidance that a mentor provides. A mentor is somebody who is experienced and educated, and the legacy part of it is something that is long-lasting and endures over time. So putting those together is an opportunity for change and evolution within any professional group or training, and obviously medicine. So mentorship is broad. It's more than just guidance. It shapes the future. And as a legacy, it provides enduring opportunities for trainees in the future and surgical medical leaders. We'll talk a little bit about what the role is for women and women in medicine in particular. So the goal of mentorship is to improve the advancement, equity, and retention of members within the organization. We wanted to create resilient and diverse leadership pathways as a result. So when you talk about mentorship, there's different types of mentorship, from a very traditional type of program, sponsorship, which I spoke about a bit earlier. There's peer mentorship, which should also be considered. And then this concept of reverse mentorship, which, as those of us who are getting on in our practices and our years, that's an opportunity for us to learn from new surgeons, physicians, nurses, etc., as they bring in new opportunities, new knowledge that we can learn from as more senior individuals. So the traditional mentorship, everyone understands this concept. It typically is one-on-one. The mentor provides guidance and advice, teaching and support that's all based on their experience and their expertise. The mentee is that individual who learns, seeks the advice. They'll develop skills underneath the direction of a mentor. The traditional model of mentorship tends to be follow hierarchy. So someone who is more senior, who's both in age and experience. It tends to be a longer term relationship. That individual, the mentor, is seen as their role model. There's the transfer of knowledge from the mentor to the mentee, and hopefully also some career advancement for that mentee, and also for the mentor. Sponsorship is this idea that it's like an extension of being a mentor. You actually do something more active even than guiding, giving advice, recommendations. You advocate for your mentee. You promote them, whether that's promoting them forward for another opportunity, promoting them at the university, promoting them with patients. The mentor in this case uses their influence to make opportunities for the mentee. And in a sponsorship type of situation, you can think about it as being very strategic. So as the mentor in this case, you set out to help your mentee advance their career, advance their leadership, advance their research. And it tends to be more active with very specific goals. Peer mentorship is also something that should be considered. There's more of a equal landscape. If you mentor a colleague or who's at a similar age and stage as you are in your training, or sorry, in your career, you provide some mutual support back and forth. You have the advantage of having a shared experience. So there's an automatic allegiance that's there because you are experiencing your career at the same time in the same place. It tends to be very collegial. It also promotes collaboration over competition, which is important. You want to be collaborative. And I think if you have this peer mentorship arrangement, it sets the tone for it to be less of a competitive type of environment. It also can fill gaps. You may work in a place where there aren't mentors that are more senior, or that they're not willing to be mentors. They're not skilled to be mentors, but you might have a peer who is able to be there as some sort of support for you and share their knowledge, and then you share back with them. So it's a unique opportunity. This concept of reverse mentorship is kind of interesting. So it's where there's a role reversal. As a young physician, surgeon, nurse in your workplace, you often have a very significant advantage over some of us that are, let's say, more mature in certain areas. Technology within your discipline, something as simple as the use of social media. Many of us are new to that, and many of you have grown up with that. And so there's an opportunity to share and pay forward, so to speak, to your senior, and provide some support as they are catching up on maybe new technology and new information. It can bridge a gap, which is very helpful. So you narrow that position, that gap that's present when you have the hierarchy of a more senior individual and a more junior individual. And as time goes on, we want to narrow that gap. You want to bring together senior and junior people. It helps to keep people engaged on both sides. It promotes the evolution of a group. If you're working towards something, you want to make sure that people are brought together rather than make it too divisive. So this kind of mentorship model can be helpful. So the spectrum of mentorship, it's pretty straightforward. We all know about teaching, where we share information. Part of that is providing feedback to your mentee or your trainee, but also them providing feedback to you as the mentor. Are you doing a good job? Are you being supportive enough? Are you hitting the mark that they need and expect? So that two-directional feedback is a component of it. While mentoring is perhaps less focused than something like the sponsorship, where you're actually truly promoting someone, making opportunities, developing opportunities for someone. And then there's this concept of coaching, which is where you're really trying to lead your trainee or your mentee on a pathway to reach their goals. You're providing ongoing coaching and support. So what are the barriers in medicine to effective mentorship as legacy? Well, I would say the biggest one, and this applies to everyday life, it's just time. Time is a barrier. None of us probably have enough time in our workday to add yet one more thing. Developing a strategy for your mentee to reach their career goals. There are a lack of formal programs and training for mentors. There's limited pool of expertise and definitely interest. I'm sure we all have colleagues who don't have an interest in supporting people looking beyond themselves and their own lives. And so there's a limited pool of people who can be and are willing to be mentors. The concept of mentorship can also be very undervalued, especially in a university setting, in a busy clinical program. There's less emphasis and value on providing mentorship. It's really about getting the work done sometimes and treating the patients. So it tends to have less value. There's also the power imbalance, of course, especially when you have a senior mentor and a junior mentee. There's a power imbalance, which can make it a barrier. It can make it less effective. And certain environments, certain cultures, certain countries, there may be more of that power imbalance. And then another barrier, which hopefully we will break down more and more, is this risk of competition. If you feel that you are giving opportunities to your junior associates and colleagues, those opportunities might not be available for you. Um, instead of your you being asked to give a talk, maybe your junior is being asked to give a talk at a national meeting or international meeting. That's actually a very good thing. But for some people, that risk of competition, not being the person at the top of the food chain, so to speak, makes them less interested in doing this. So if you extend this beyond the barriers in medicine in general, what are the challenges for women in medicine? I probably don't need to tell any of you this. You probably live it. The barriers are things like women in leadership roles are fewer than male, at least in the past. It's starting to change, but there is that tendency to identify with someone who's like you. So as a mentee, if you don't see anybody on the landscape that is like you, it may be more difficult for you to identify a mentor. So that's one of the barriers. There's gender bias and pay gaps. So women in leadership positions, including women as mentors, tend to be potentially overlooked. If there's any payment associated with mentorship positions, there tends to be pay gaps. But even in your job as it exists, there tends to be pay gaps. And so a woman considering adding yet another duty, another job on top of what they already do, they may be less inclined to do so, looking at their male counterpart who may be getting paid more than them. Why would I, as the female, take on something else and that individual gets paid more? They should do it. So there's some of these things that make it more of a barrier for us. And then, of course, we talked about this earlier, the work-life integration. When you are busy with clinical work, academic work, teaching, etc., and then you also have the desire to have a family and other relationships, parents, siblings, all these sort of things that you may have responsibilities. It's hard to add one more thing. So that's a difference that we often see as women in medicine. Just reflecting on the state of women in medicine. So these are some numbers from North America, Canada, and the US, very similar. In the 1970s, 7% of medical students were women. In a review in 2024, more than half of medical students are women. 45% of full-time faculty are women, division heads, 34%, and now 25% of chairs of academic departments, 1 in 4, are women. That's a big change from what it would have been before. I pulled these numbers from a couple of sources, and the opportunities for leadership in Ukraine, it seems, hasn't changed that much yet. But I would argue that now is an opportunity for change, given what the country is going through. This is an opportunity for change, and clearly, this forum and this conference represents that. So, what are the strategies for mentors? Well, you want to be active. You want to seek out opportunities for your mentee. What can you do to help them? You don't have to spoon feed them. You don't have to chase them, but they may not be aware of opportunities that you are based on your experience, that they would excel at, that they would benefit from. So, actively looking for opportunities for your mentees is important. Being very flexible, being aware of bias that you might have, or that they may be experiencing. And you want to create a safe space for them to share their vulnerabilities with you if it's appropriate. What they're struggling with, how you can support them. Um, if if you don't have enough of an open approach to that, you may miss an opportunity to provide them with very needed support that they can't get somewhere else. What are some strategies for the institutions? Well, if you're a leader in your institution, I would say they need to develop formal programs. When new faculty, new physicians, nurses, whatever come in, they should be assigned a mentor, um, and have something established from the start, so that people can they have something that they can someone that they can go to right from the beginning. This may help with job satisfaction, improve their learning, and retention is an important component as well, if you feel like you're being valued. Um, Obviously, setting up networks. Something like this is Women in Medicine group that we're at today. That's a network. There should be training for mentors, because not all of us understand how to do that. And some of it you learn by experience, but there's some formal and informal training that people can do that's pretty straightforward. It just helps you set the stage for how to be an effective and impactful mentor. Um, the institutions should recognize this. They should recognize mentorship as an important component for the mentors and the mentees, and it gives them a commitment to this concept of leadership. So when we're thinking about mentorship, it goes beyond that individual that you may be supporting. It extends beyond your own career. You leave a legacy behind you that is going to help one other person, who's going to help another person, who's going to help another person, and so on and so forth. So it really is a lasting time, or lasting impact on a number of individuals. Um, and the impact can be far reaching. It can impact an entire culture. So, the culture of academic medicine, the culture of surgery. Um, and it can be something that lasts over generations of individuals. It has a significant ripple effect. A mentor influence, influences many learners, but it also can you act as a role model to your colleagues at your level. So if your colleagues see that you are mentoring and individuals, and those individuals have success, that success reflects back on the mentor. It reflects back on your division, your program, whatever that may be, and it has a positive impact. So you can influence people after you, but also at your same level. And I think that that's an important thing to consider. Um, Typically, if someone has had an important and meaningful mentor, they become as a mentee, they then become an effective and important mentor themselves. So you pay it forward as it were. Mentorship expands the opportunities beyond the individual, as I said, and it creates this overwhelming culture of support within your institution. And that culture of support is something that can be very positive when you're trying to recruit people to your hospital, your university, whatever. If they feel that it's a supportive environment where they will have people that will have their backs, that will promote them forward, that will support them, that will be there in their time of need. So developing that culture as but while being an effective mentor is very valuable in the long term. So these are just some broad recommendations regarding strategies. Um, when you are thinking about mentorship, um, be selective, be intentional when you're choosing your mentees. Are there people that you see that maybe have great potential, but don't demonstrate that as well? They seem to lack some confidence. They may be struggling in some way. Be intentional when you're selecting those mentees so that you can take your energy and your morsel of time and make it count. When we've said we've all have limited time, we all have other commitments. If you have a certain amount of time, you want to devote it in a way that it's going to have impact on somebody that may be very much in need. Of course, inclusivity and diversity, we all need to consider that. If there's individuals that you may see that are of a certain minority and they need support, you may be able to link them with somebody that is suitable as a mentor if you're not the mentor yourself. And there's also the opportunity for just a informal kind of mentorship. You can have formal relationships, but there's also informal. And I think setting that culture, setting that tone by being open and flexible as a leader, to let people know that there is a philosophy and a belief of we're supportive. We're here to help you reach your career goals and be a successful clinician or researcher or educator. Then you want to have that as a almost informal message that you can deliver to those in your group. So some mentorship skills. Listen, that's something that's obviously very important. Listen to what your trainees and mentees are saying. Listen to how other people are mentoring their mentees. Learn from that. Providing constructive feedback. It doesn't all have to be positive. And when there's negative feedback to deliver, do it in a way that's still not punitive, not overly demoralizing, but still something that's going to be constructive that they can work on to improve. And then advocating for them when need be. Some of the pitfalls of mentoring, you can over mentor. I think if people that are in medicine, we tend to be comfortable and maybe good at controlling the situation, controlling the environment. And if you're a leader and you're used to being in that role, you have to also step back. You have to let that individual um, work independently and try not to babysit them too much. otherwise it becomes, it's not a translation of the experience. It's that you're telling them exactly what to do and how to do it and how to behave. That's not the role of a mentor. It's providing some guidance and support. Maintain boundaries, that's important, and ensure reciprocity. So that individual can then provide some mentorship to, someone more junior to them. So that's the other side. Building sustainable mentorship. So that's where the institution comes in, whether that's the university or the hospital, developing a program for mentorship. Networking with individuals and including your mentee and your trainees in networks to give them an opportunity to participate within and as a leader within those organizations. So just as a few takeaway points, mentorship isn't legacy act. It's long lasting, it endures. And so for what may be a small amount of time, you can have a significant impact. And if we all think about when we're at various stages, how a meaningful mentor has made a difference to us or could have made a difference, it should promote you to offer that where you can, because it does have a long-lasting effect. The mentorship has a significant impact past the time when we're practicing and working, and it does influence many people, as I said. So I would just say, something you can think about would be to think, who can I mentor over the next 1 to 2 years in my organization, in my group? Is there somebody that I think could use that extra support? If you are one of those mentees who feels like, or a new learner or trainee, a new position that you need support, then maybe you look around in your organization to say, who is it that I want to be on my side, who can help me, who I feel, a connection with? And I would simply say that the idea of mentorship is we can really all rise together if we're lifting people up. We stand on the shoulders of giants is a very famous line, and I truly believe that. And so many of us are where we are because we were able to stand on the shoulders of giants. Now, some of us are in that position that we need to get those people on our shoulders and put them forward. So I encourage everybody to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions? So thank you for your presentation. Frequently, when we have a great mentor and a great mentee, and the mentee is successful, we can see that the mentee can come to a stage and say, thank you to the team, thank you to the mentor. That was our common path and our common work. But sometimes we can see the cases when there is a mentee. This is just in general. When the mentee steps up, he says or she says, it's only me who takes the credit. Sometimes I can, when I see great mentors, sometimes I feel their pain. They cannot respond properly to such situations, and it discourages them from continuing to be a mentor. So maybe you can share your experience and give a few suggestions. How should you respond in this situation so that the mentor doesn't feel burnt out and also feels that he's the gratitude from the mentee?
Very good question. And it just made me realize that in my talk, I didn't consider the negative impact. And so thank you for that question. I would say that it probably depends on the situation. If that individual is somewhere where the others that are around that they really know the truth, that it's the mentor that provided these opportunities, I would say that's good enough. You don't need to ring the bell and say, wait, that was me. You're there because of me. Some people may want to do that, but if you have the strength of your own conviction and you're confident in what you do, I would say that that's not important. However, if it is in a situation where that it influences something in a significant way, then I think you speaking with that mentee afterwards and letting them know that that's not the culture that you are emulating, and therefore they shouldn't be doing it either, because that's not for the good of the organization. It's not for the good of the group, and it's a dishonest approach. And that individual may decide to, retrace and clarify the situation, or they may not. I would say that individual is probably going to make their true self known eventually. And so it just depends on how much you want to get into a conflict over it.
Each of us can think that I am not a leader. So, and to be a mentor, this is not my thing, my cup of tea, or maybe I don't have enough life of professional experience to be a mentor. Can each of us be a mentor? And what are your practical tips to mentors who have decided to do so for junior specialists, junior colleagues who are becoming doctors after their internship? Just a few tips maybe from your side, and whether this is leadership and mentorship is the same or not.
Say no, leadership and mentorship is different. Leadership obviously has there are overarching responsibilities to being a leader. You may be both, but you don't have to be a leader to be a mentor. You don't have to spend a lot of time to be a mentor. You have to have some interest, some degree of expertise that you can offer. And you have to have a desire to influence somebody that's in a position of need. Someone who's junior to you. So I would say you shouldn't be discouraged to being a mentor now, if simply because you think I don't have an opportunity or I don't have time in my life right now to be a leader. Or you may not be interested in leadership. Many people aren't, and that's fine. But you can still be a very good mentor, because some of it is very it's can be passive. I mean, people can see you as a role model, and it's can be as simple as demonstrating your professionalism, your commitment to your patients, and your empathy, all of these things. So being a role model is very similar to being a mentor, but taking it a step further and saying, how can I help you achieve something? What can I do? That just takes it one step further, identifying somebody who may look like they're struggling. And if you think that you have the skills and the experience, whether it's somebody very junior because you're only junior yourself, that's fine. That's very good.
Thank you, Caroline.
Our next speaker is Katerina Pavenski. About the art of effective presentation, Katerina Pavenski. So I was born in Ukraine, in the Chernivtsi city, and I left Ukraine when I was 15. And I would like to say that my Ukrainian suffered a lot because I wasn't in the Ukrainian environment, and my partner was an English-speaking person. That's why I will be delivering my speech in English, but I understand everything that you are saying, and I don't need the questions to be translated, but apologies if I need to switch to Ukrainian.
So I was advisory to the government on the national policy on blood and blood products. I'm currently the board director for North America for International Society for Blood Transfusion. I'm also the vice chair for the International Collaboration for Transfusion Guidelines. So as a result of all of this work, I was called upon to give presentations in many different countries on many different subjects, predominantly in transfusion medicine, but also in benign hematology and also in evidence-based medicine. I have to admit, I have never given a presentation on how to give an effective presentation. So when Michelle told me a couple of days before we were due to leave for Lviv, oh, by the way, this is what you're doing, I said, oh, дякую дуже. You get to speak about what you are passionate about, which is preeclampsia, and here I am talking about this. I also have to say that when I started preparing these slides, I felt my age because I grew up in PowerPoint world. The rest of you this morning was one speaker after the next, much more like a TED Talk, much more of a doповідь, not presentation. So forgive me. And I call upon everyone to add to my presentation how to make this better. So the very first thing I want you to do is to pause and reflect, even thinking back as recent as this morning. Who do you remember? Who was the best presentation that you've heard and why? Keep this image in mind, and now I'm going to give you a very formal delivery, and then I may ask you this again. All right, so every great presentation requires the 5 Ps. Plan, you prepare, you practice, you perform, and you bring passion. Let's start with planning, the most important part. Pause and think. What are you trying to achieve? What is your most important goal in delivering the presentation? If you don't know what you want to achieve in your presentation, your audience never will. So before you start making any slides, any outlines, think in one sentence, what do you want to say? Design a title. Title must be informative, concise, and it better grab attention. Because when you have a long litany of presentations from 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 p.m., you have to capture your audience. They want to pick you from the slate and want to go and hear you. Learning objectives are complicated. And I encourage you to pause and think very hard about how you're going to design them. You absolutely should be giving a structure or an outline of your presentation. When you design your objectives, I strongly encourage you not to exceed 3. 5 is the absolute maximum. Again, they have to be clear and concise. And remember, the presentation is not about you and what you want to say. It's about what audience needs to learn from you. And therefore, your emphasis should be on the learner. So when you design your presentation, always think, after this presentation, the learner will be able to scribe, analyze, manage. And so what I'm going to give you is an example. So amongst other things that I do, I am an expert in management of TTP. I know there is at least one hematologist in the room who knows what this is. It's an ultra rare, mainly autoimmune condition. And the way I get very frequently called upon to talk about this disease. So the way I would structure my presentation is saying, after this presentation, if you attended this presentation, you will be able to describe pathophysiology, to develop an approach to diagnosis, and discuss therapeutic options. Those are my 3 things that I'm going to be talking about. It's very, very clear what I'm going to be saying. Before presentation is fundamentally important. And again, I mainly give scientific presentation, not inspirational presentations. So it is really important to know who your audience is and what is their baseline level of knowledge. There are 2 things to consider. Your audience, so you need to know what they want to learn from you, but also you have to consider the request from your organizers, right? The organizers have asked you to come and talk about something. They have an agenda. What is that agenda? Because you're serving the audience, but ultimately you're also responsible to the conference organizers about what you're going to say. So during the presentation, it is really important to gauge reaction and adapt and adjust. You may notice that your audience is falling asleep or is left behind. Pause, solicit feedback, invite questions. It is really important to force yourself to build in polls. And you can do it through a variety of ways. And there's wonderful gadgets that you can incorporate by forcing people to do polls on your phone. You can do gamification. You can give out prizes. When I teach at the university, I have chocolates to give out to the first person who gives me the correct answer. All of this makes people attend your presentations and want to learn from you. Okay, what about preparation? Not as fun. You may not be the expert on the topic. In fact, a world expert in the topic might be sitting in the audience that you are presenting to. But remember, you were the one who was asked to present. So be prepared. Collect and evaluate evidence, summarize, and for very big topics, decide on 1 or 2 things you want to go in depth in. There is nothing worse than a presentation that in the span of 30 minutes covers 100 different aspects of a single disease without going into depth into anything. Your audience will remember nothing. And they can do this quick summary using ChatGPT. They don't need you. So select something and upfront say, I will be talking about this and this and this aspect. I will not touch upon anything else. If you're interested, I'm happy to provide extra materials. I'm happy to stay behind. You can email me and we can continue the conversation. Do not cram stuff. Okay, now this is my McMaster roots coming through. Scientific presentations must be appropriately referenced. That means that you have to select appropriate articles that you're going to include in your presentation. So I'm sure you've all seen the pyramid of evidence. The absolute bottom is expert opinion. Limit the amount of expert opinion to the absolute minimum. What you want to be is at the very top, systematic reviews, randomized controlled trials. Now, I operate in the world of very rare diseases. They may not be randomized controlled trials. There's certainly no systematic reviews. It is okay then to quote case reports and observational studies. But if you're presenting solely on expert opinion, you're doing something wrong. I'll talk about in the next slide a little bit more about how do you decide what is high quality, what is not. My pet peeve is that do not use outdated resources. When you start showing things from 1997 and 2007, that shows the audience. Now, it could be the seminal paper that changed the world of medicine. That's okay. But if all of your references are from 10, 20 years back, it signals to your audience that you actually are not up to date. Every statement that you make in a scientific presentation must be meticulously referenced. And be prepared that anything that is on your slide is fair game for your audience to ask for clarification. So if you're showing a paper, be prepared to answer questions about it. So I do not expect you to read this, and I hope that through GMK we can make the slides available for you for future reference. Almost all of these are freely available, and you may have another favorite reference. So if you don't like this, just remember, when you are selecting studies, you have to convince yourself that you are dealing with high quality study. So for example, if you're talking about observational studies, you can use Strobe to figure out if the study that you're presenting actually was done correctly. Randomized controlled trial, the same thing. Systematic reviews, the same thing. Because I've been involved in so many guidelines, so we collaborated recently on ABB international guidelines, on platelets, on red blood cell transfusion, acute myocardial infarction. So as a writer of guidelines, I'm also very acutely aware of how important it is to follow the correct outline. So Agree To tool is freely available. I would challenge you, take a local Ukrainian guideline and subject it to Agree To tool and see how it stacks up. Because an evidence-based guideline must be derived from systematic reviews and good quality literature. Every decision that you make on a guideline statement must be transparent and defensible by the evidence that you're analyzing. It is difficult to achieve, and it has to be completely free of bias, either government or industry, or more importantly, your own intellectual bias. If you were the principal investigator on the largest randomized controlled trial that sways the entire panel, maybe you shouldn't be voting, because we know exactly where your bias is going to lie. You need to tell a compelling story. Otherwise, people will not remember what you're talking about. So scientific presentations should be a mixture of that data, and I'm giving you data, and I'm showing you references. But if I do it without telling you a story, you're not going to remember, and you're not going to emotionally connect with what I'm telling you. And so how do you tell a story? Just think of your most favorite Kafka fairy tale. What makes it entertaining? What makes you want to turn the page? So use a strong hook. Grab the attention of the audience. Provide the context of the challenge. Achieve the resolution, and then end with a call to action. This is how you tell a good story. So again, I'm going to use my TTP example. When I give my talks about TTP, I always start when I was a medical student and I had no idea what specialty to choose. I was called upon to look after a young woman who literally just gotten married and was about to embark on honeymoon. And she got diagnosed with TTP. And it is a devastating disease. What was even more devastating is that no matter what we tried, nothing worked. And one by one, this absolutely beautiful lady lost her hair, got swollen up from steroids, became completely unrecognizable. And at first, she was demanded to go home right away. And then she was only asking to be discharged home. She can't have a life. This is why it is so important to study TTP. It disproportionately affects young women, mothers. It has very effective therapies, but our effective therapies are not going to save all of them. And therefore, we have to continue to find the cure. So this story does not happen again. So budget your time. In North America, there is an unwritten rule. 25% is for interactive learning. And that could be through polls, questions. If you are cramming too much information, you're not going to have any time left. Okay, I told you, I'm a PowerPoint person. I apologize. So, PowerPoint slides. This might sound absolutely stupid to you. But if an organizer asks you to come and present, make sure what their AV requirements are. If you're a Mac person and they don't have the AV setup for Mac, you're not going to be able to deliver your presentation. Check the podium, what is available to you. Do not ever use templates that are impossible to read. I don't care how beautiful they are and what beautiful flowers they are. If your audience cannot read your slides, you wasted everybody's time. Check grammar and spelling. I cannot emphasize enough how embarrassing it is, especially at big, important scientific meetings, to find grammatical errors. That just shows that you are sloppy. You have no quality control. And it's so easy to do. You can run a spell check. We all have very, very short attention span. Now, I don't believe that we're worse than the goldfish, but write clearly, concisely. So keep it short and simple. KISS, okay? Organize your presentation, use points, plain language. In science, we're very good at coming up with very complicated acronyms that the rest of the world doesn't understand. Or we exclusively use jargon because it makes us look smarter. All it does, it leaves your audience in the dust. These other things, rules about 1 slide per minute, 555 rule, I'm sure you can find them on the internet. It's complicated. If you're using a lot of visuals, then you can have lots of visuals and hundreds of slides. but you're still talking about very few concepts. So not going to spend much time on this, only to say is that what you should never have is multiple concepts on a single slide. Use visuals. Visuals should be relevant. It is really important. It may be very nice to show pictures of cats and beautiful places you visited in the world, but if it's distracting from your presentation, don't include them. Your visuals should support your idea, what you're actually presenting. And scientific graphs. Okay, so not everyone in your audience will know what a tunnel plot is or forest plot is. If you're including this, it's unfair to just flip it on the slide and just keep going. Pause and say, what I want you to see here is this. And because the effect falls on this side, therefore the conclusion is that the treatment works, or the treatment doesn't work, or the treatment makes no difference. So if you're going to include complicated graphs, be prepared to explain them. I don't know if there's the same thing in Ukraine. You have a mic drop. When you make a strong statement and you drop your mic and you storm out, remember, you have to end on a strong note. So you actually should be spending a lot of time thinking about your final. All right, practice. This is really boring. Practice is really boring. Very, very important. Not only will give you confidence, it will also make sure that you are within time. And sometimes where you will may be very attached to a specific sentence or concept that you want to talk about. And when you try to put it in words, it doesn't quite come out. When only after you do it a few times, you realize, like, you know what? I'm really not getting this point across. I should change. Maybe I should use a different word. The best people are the people who have done multiple presentations and you can present in front of them. And do not select friends. You want somebody who's going to be a critic, who's going to say, you know what? This is not good. You have to redo this slide. I lost you. If you do not have a person like that, person who will be honest with you to give appropriate feedback, one thing that works is recording yourself. Now, I hate listening to recordings of myself. So I find it really embarrassing. I rip myself apart and that it's all terrible. But it can be very, very helpful to hone the language. And in the words of a very famous tennis player, the key to success is self-confidence. The key to self-confidence is preparation. No one is confident because they're confident. Very few of us are. And usually those people don't deserve to be confident, don't have the reason to be confident. Most of us have to try it. Okay, performance and passion. So stand tall. I have terrible posture, but when you present, make sure you make yourself as tall as possible. Not this. This tells the audience that you are closed up and you are not listening. Feel free to gesticulate, walk around, as long as you're not distracting the audience. The most important thing is eye contact. If you've spoken for 60 minutes and you haven't looked up once from the screen, haven't made eye contact with a single audience member, you have failed as a presenter. For some of us, this is effortless and natural. For others, we really have to try it. And that's why recording yourself may be very, very useful. The last thing on the slide is really, really important. When you present many, many times, there will be all kinds of bad things that are going to happen to you. The AV will fail. Air raid may sound. There will be a code announcement. I don't know. We have codes announced overhead all the time. Like, it's really hard to speak over them and you kind of have to pause and wait, and then you kind of lose your composure. So remain calm and professional. Technical issues, unexpected questions. There will always be someone who's going to try to throw you a curveball, give you something that is completely you're not prepared for. It's okay. You can say, you know what? Thank you. I actually haven't thought of it. This is really, really interesting. Let me explore this and let me get back to you. Or perhaps you have an idea of how I can address the scientific question better. Maybe they do. Maybe they will actually give you some breakthrough that you were waiting for. And at least you're not going to look like you are all lost your composure. Don't know what to do. There will always be hostile comments too. That's very sad. Even at scientific meetings, there will be always somebody who is not so many words tell you that your research is crap. And again, you thank them for the attention and you thank them for the feedback and say that you can only strive to do better. There's nothing worse than you losing your composure and then looking bad as a result of something. Speak clearly. If you speak at all, carve every word before you let it fall. Project. Bring passion. Explain to your audience why you care about the topic. Convince them that why you should care, why you as the audience should care about my topic. If I spend most of my time just reading slides, not making contact, not varying my voice at all, why should you care about what I had to say to you today? Connecting emotionally is really important. And it's easy in TED Talks, and it's easy when you talk about something inspirational. Science can be a bit tough. So this is why the storytelling and connection. So I always bring a case when I speak. And again, I'm killing you with quotes. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This is what makes you memorable. So remember, great presentation requires plenty preparation, practice, performance, and passion. So happy presenting to you all. And remember that success of your presentation will be judged not by the knowledge you send, but what the listener receives. And I hope I've imparted some wisdom on you today. Thank you so much for your attention. Do we have time for
Thank you. Ви чудовий
Thank you. You are a great speaker. And I think you can easily attract attention to your words. Something that you mentioned, it's important not just to discuss just very important text, but the way you do it, how you deliver it. You're a great example how to do it. Thank you. Maybe someone has any questions? Thank you so much. I dropped the microphone. Yeah. That's really so. Building on what my colleague has told already, the topic was like a presentation, how to deliver presentation. It was the kind of workshop about masterclass about how to deliver a presentation. And we are moving on. Our next speaker is Iryna Nemyrovych, the co-founder of the center Tabletochki, a Ukrainian Center of Healthcare, UHC. She will share with us how to make a presentation. So please prepare your questions. Thank you. It's difficult to talk after the previous speaker because I found some grammatical mistakes in my presentation. So it's about check to your attention. You can check how many mistakes you will identify in my presentation. Але головне показувати інтерес до того, що it's very difficult to deliver speeches at medical events. Why? You will understand it. I have a kind of advantage in comparison to doctors. I started working full time when I was 18, when the majority of doctors were studying in their first or second year of university. At 20, I had the first managerial position in the NGO. At 23, at corporate sector. At 24, we created the charitable fund Tabletochki. And now it is one of the biggest cancer-related foundations, and our team did a lot for the children's oncology. And at 27th, I became the general director. I was the youngest among the general directors. That's why I really had my advantages. I have 3 higher education, Kyiv-Mohyliana, international relations, but there is no medical education. So all my years in the ministry, I was listening things like, well, young lady, you are not a medic. What do you do in the ministry? So again, my topic is devoted how for a leader to become to get a managing position. My aim is to make you understand whether you need to do it. There are a lot of great experts that don't need to do their own business. They don't want to be managers. They can be great scientists. They can realize themselves in a different way. They don't need management. That's why maybe I will prevent some of the fatal mistakes, and maybe I will inspire someone else. Because a lot of us are here not to become leader, but to find their bubble. Maybe you want to change something even in the system, but we can do it from different roles. So previously, when you analyze the opinions of the HR manager, what are the typical careers of a professional, you would be told that you can develop vertically, you can become a senior nurse, senior doctor, to be a deputy, a director, or you can develop horizontally new specializations or additional professions. But in Ukraine, your career looks much more extravagant. Here, I've been talking with many colleagues that we used to work in the ministry with, and some of my colleagues did strange transfers, career transfer, and it doesn't look like a classical career ladder. So this is the example of my career. I will explain you why there are such smileys. I started in communications. I was a PR manager, brand manager, and at the same time, I was getting management, education. Then there was this Tablatochki Fund. Then I joined the ministry, and then we created the Ukrainian Center of Healthcare. We created it in 2019 during COVID pandemic, and then the war started. It was the event why I started having generalized anxiety disorder and a lot of gray hairs. So do we really need these management roles? When we are starting our career, we are at the stage of being professional or an expert. At this stage, our task is to get a profession. We do it at professional courses, trainings, long-lasting education. We participate in professional communities. We build up a personal brand. And usually we have professional challenges here. And it's quite rarely when we find a place to find management experience. That's why you have to ask for it. So my message to those who are at the beginning of their career, you will not be granted with responsibility. You have to ask for it. If you learn to take on the responsibility, then you will manage it. My first management experience, I worked in the network of gas stations. Our general director was a very attractive Turkish guy. He gathered a team of young people and he said, our team is going down a bit, and I'm sure you can live it up. Here are funds and do something. Those who were not afraid and who had great ideas, and if the ideas were efficient, they developed their career quickly. That's why taking up responsibility, expanding your responsibility. You shouldn't say it's not in my job description. It's important. When luckily we get these projects, first project management experience of team management, this is already B level. This stage is very important because it gives us the chance to understand, is it something that we really need, this delegation, deadlines, budgets, kind of babysit the team and so on. Maybe I don't want to deal with people. Maybe it's enough for me to be just an expert in my profession. So I could see when the people shifted quickly from the expertise level to and jumped to this business management level without skipping in management role. But if you feel that you want to develop further, management experience, this is something that you really need, then we can develop our soft skills. At the first stage, we invest in our professional hard skills, and now we are shifting to soft skills development, presentation skills, negotiation skills, maybe something connected to finance. So anything else that is beyond your core professional skills. They broaden your horizons, and you have a chance to experiment outside of your profession. And then you can go to another stage, to management role. Here we also can expect a lot of new things. It might seem to us that when one becomes a manager, you can come and everything, you will change everything, whether you're going to the minister to introduce reforms, you are energized, inspired, and then you face a lot of problems and obstacles. And to understand how to tackle these problems, this management education can help us to deal with these obstacles. That's what we encourage with the colleagues from the Ukrainian Center of Healthcare. You can attend different courses. There are great programs at Ukrainian Catholic University for managers. There are a lot of different programs where you can understand and shift from project management to strategic management. I was really lucky, and when I started became the Tabletochki director, I started the MBA program. So this was for people who were to start public service. So I could learn there the theory and practice the theory in my fund, Tabletochki. It's an ideal combo. That's why if you understand that you want to start managerial experience, or you have already started doing it, this would be something great for you. And the challenges that we face at the management level, they are totally different than on the professional level, because a lot of politics related, internal conflicts that you have to manage. You always lack resources, something also difficult to deal with. And this is the moment, the best favorable opportunity, when you can learn from other people's mistakes. Because if you launch your initiative, you risk your own money. But to be a manager in somebody else's initiative is a good training opportunity. I also want to focus on management education. The main thing that we can acquire from it, it's about 30% of the knowledge that we get there, and 70%, those are people that we will get acquainted with. In these 2 days, I could see the alumni of the master's program from Kyiv Mohyla, who started working in the National Cancer Institute. He's a former also Pavlo Kovtonyuk, Oleg Petrenko. They were all the alumni of the School of Healthcare. So if you go start management education when you're adults, it provides you with contacts and people that you can later on initiate new projects. It's an environment for you to thrive in. These are pictures from my wedding. A month and a half ago, I got married. In this picture, we are all classmates. We studied together at this MBA program. Behind me, this man, he's my husband. He heads the state service of statistics. Another our classmate, he is deputy minister of economy, and so on. Everyone who we studied together, they became public officials. So think, what is your position? What is your role in management education? and go there to get future colleagues and get future husbands. After I was a manager at the fund, at the ministry, together with Pavlo Kovtoniuk and some other colleagues, we decided that we are ready to create our center. That was not the best of time that we have selected for that, but we realized we are ready to launch the project because we found partners that we could do it together with. And big life hack from you: when you're alone, it's difficult to initiate your business or your project because you want to have a team that you would like to share responsibility with. I know personally, I realized that when I was a manager of projects, I understood my leadership style. I know my strengths. I'm not a visionary. So Pavlo had a very interesting lecture about Middle Ages. Ira is responsible for funds for the vision, and this is a tandem that works perfectly. So we cannot do without each other because we have our own roles. I have always been working with such people. For example, together with Uliana Suprun, I know my strengths. If I were alone to do the project or the business, I'm not sure that I would be as successful. So it's important to understand what your leadership style is, to understand what your potential partners will be. So we found each other and we wanted to launch our project. At the beginning, I was saying that I had generalized anxiety disorder. I had some treatment because it turned out that I found it stressful when I didn't know what to pay to people. We were committed, we were responsible for our employees, and I didn't know what to do if I wasn't able to pay the people that we hired. So that wasn't the kind of responsibility that I was prepared for. To dispute with someone, no problem. But be responsible for funds, that was something complicated for me. At the previous stages, it's important for you to test it, whether you are ready for it, what evokes the fear, whether you are able to work during crisis, and you are usually ultimately responsible for dealing with crisis. You cannot hide somewhere behind someone. After my own project, there's still a lot of space for improvement. We can scale up our projects, be a mentor, and so on. Where else can the leader be realized? It's not, you don't have to be managers, you can still stay as professional, work with experts, develop standards. For example, in the National Health Service, they have expert council where they work with professionals who are not managers but can share their knowledge. You can be in public service, and then sometimes it's difficult to leave it. Yes, Roman. Roman is a person who inspired me to get this picture that I use in my presentation because he was an intern, he was in public service, because there are great opportunities in Ukraine, or Victoria Kovac, who is in the armed forces, and her career path is winding. So there are a lot of places beyond management where you can realize yourself. So consider all the opportunities. What can help you to cover this path more efficiently? The first two speakers mentioned this tool as mentorship. Personally, for me, how it is how mentorship is different from coaching. We choose a mentor. This person should be should be someone who has covered a similar past, so it becomes like a cheat code for you. how maybe to quicken, how to accelerate, how to skip certain steps, and so on. Also, there is coaching tool. When we refer to coaching, it doesn't have to be a person from our sphere, but with some management experience, or this is a person that you can talk with. This is something more like psychotherapy, partially. You talk with these people so that you understand better what my goals are. Also, I like the tool of strategic sessions, individual strategic session. If I know a certain point which I want to, which is my destination in 10 years, we split it into certain tasks and periods and sections. It's about how achieve my goals and having plans. If you don't have a long-term plan, I understand that we are at war, but when you have a long-term plan, when you have certain focus, we know what we want to reach. My son is 3 years old. He was born in the first year of the war. He is really young, and I made a conscious decision that while he's young, up to 3 years, I don't go to I don't want to take any leadership positions because I want to be a mom. It's my personal decision. I'm not struggling. For me, my priority is my family and my son. That was all planned. When it happens suddenly and then you suffer from it because you feel like you're missing out, it's more painful that you have a plan in advance. How to understand whether you need management positions or whether you should stay in the professional sphere.
Ask yourself what you like the most in your life. And is it about work with the patient? Do you want to keep it? Do you don't want to decrease it at your work, or you are ready to switch to the strategic management, teamwork, and develop there? So, what's your vision of leadership? What's your style of leadership? Doesn't matter what kind of methodology, but you need to understand what's your favorite way of management. You can understand it through not big volunteers project. Through public organizations, you should understand how you can lead people, what kind of influence you can have in 10 years. And when I do individual strategic sessions, I can hear that a person wants to make a breakthrough in some disease, and this person is planning to take a managerial position. And my question is how to match that. Do you want to stay in medicine, or you want to move to more managerial work? It's important to find an answer for yourself and to end up. Are you ready to take risks? Because in both cases, managerial work and own business are about the high risks of money, reputation. A lot of about crisis and risks. Is it comfortable to live in the status of crisis? Is it comfortable for you to have like ultimate responsibility for all processes for achieving that? Think about that. Try to answer these three questions. What will be your next step? Will you want to find a mentor? Will you want to find take as responsibility for some project? Will you want to achieve your dream? Maybe in 10 years, you want to find a solution to some big issue and you are ready to invest into that. Think about that and make it the first step. If the first step will be to go to Kyivo-Mohylansk Academy on master's degree, you can find this information about that on the website of Healthcare Ministry of Ukraine. Thank you, Miss Iryna, for a very nice speech. Questions? Thank you for a very inspiring speech. I have two questions. First, How do you manage to plan for the next few years without applying strategic sessions? Maybe you have some secret. And second, on the slide, there was information about go and learn new leadership and find a husband. Very interesting question. If we talk about first, when I do long-term planning, I'm trying to keep to those events which are the most valuable or I cannot postpone. For example, maternity has its own limits, and it's better if you deliver, have a baby by some age. But I know I had a lot of miscarriages, and it was a difficult way for me. Sometimes I'm thinking to me if I sold it earlier. So there are some questions which have to be resolved by some time. There are some expensive purchases where I'm planning to accumulate money, where I want to buy some house or apartment. I'm trying to plan how to make money for this. And these are like milestones which you cannot really move around. But other events you in between them, when I have different degrees education. I understand when I have my maternity. Uh, I also think that I don't. We shouldn't expect for pension, and we will have to keep much longer, judging from the demographic situation in Ukraine. So maybe we'll have different careers in our lives. In our life, I will not answer the question about this old husband. Okay, I have microphone. We have so cool speakers. I am so I'm enjoying each speech more and more. First of all, I want to say comment for very nice wedding outfit. It was the second wedding which you make for yourself, not for parents. Secondly, I had experience working with the children's oncology. So with my eyes, what I have seen, I can say that your foundation does a big work, what I'm very grateful for. And I have a question: how did your idea appear? How did you to start this foundation? How did you start? How did you manage to such a like a big scale work? First. It would be correct to say that today I don't have relation to Foundation Tablatushki, and what I'm proud of. And was like a rehearsal of a maternity. So we created it and we let it go. There is a team of 50 people, very cool members of the team. Now we don't work with them. We are very happy with having seen that success. When it started, we didn't have our own stories. We just wanted. It was unclear for me why 95% of cancer of blood could be treated in the world and in Ukraine not. And it annoyed me. And I decided to learn this case. I hope it made something positive about this case. Short question. First question, just from my experience, I became the deputy of a department when I was 28. And I felt that I was not ready for that. I understood that I didn't have enough managerial experience. I lived in Lviv. I looked for some programs and I saw something I needed. I found a phone number. I phoned I was asked how much time I work as a head of a department. It seems to me I said that it was about 1 year and a half. No, it was less than a year. And the person told me that it is recommended to start do this program who have more than 2 or 3 years. And it was like like I didn't understand like where I had to, what I had to study to learn, what kind of course I had to do. She told me that when you start learning some program, you have enough experience and you know you are more aware. But I was thinking like yes, but before that moment, you also need to survive as a manager. It was my reflection. The question for me, the most complicated is to explain to my foreign colleagues at different congress. And I understand that people couldn't understand that I am a little older than 30. And it was we had a very nice explanation. So Ukraine is a country of possibilities, but in fact, did you have to explain like a quick career progression? How do you explain it? Like for them to understand how it works here. Yes, I have a serious explanation and funny one. The funny one, I thought that I'm very talented. I have ADHD, and the serious is that I never explain. I had a lot of questions, in particular when I became the director general, and you do WHO meetings, or me and Uliana go and meet some prime ministers, and they are 40 plus, and you're 27. They had question, but we didn't explain anything. Like we have what we have. Maybe you should live in Ukraine. Maybe would be luckier. Judging from your presentation, I can see that your managerial experience is well integrated into a maternity, and even your management, even how you presented about your outfit for wedding. How do you manage to cope with that? How do you manage to integrate and combine? Does it make your life easier or more difficult? In fact, really beyond brackets that Lisa was supposed to work with our team, but she refused. And when we were expecting her, her younger daughter was very little. After I became a mother, I like working with moms who have young children. And the things which used to take 1 week, now they take 2 days for me, because I know that my child can get sick very suddenly, and if I'm trying to work very quickly. And when my child started visiting kindergarten, they have shuttled, and I received extra 1 hour and a half, and at 6 I understand that I have finished everything. So the maternity and maternity is they are the best project managers, and I encourage men to offer job to young mothers. After such speeches, we want just to run and save this world. Our next speaker, Nataliya, with the formation of new system of values in medicine. Good day, dear colleagues. Hardly ever I give presentations and speeches, but I couldn't say no. Thank you for persistence. I'm more concentrated on my work, but today it's a time to have more reflection. What I would like to share with you. I've named my report. I changed the name and I called it the Medicine of Dignity. And why is it so? Why I believe that Ukraine will have medicine of dignity? Will it have relation to us? We have heard a lot about how difficult to have a career progression for young doctors. So thank you to Miss Iryna, who said that didn't have medical education and it was very difficult for her. When I was 26, I had in management of manager of corporation, and I was the deputy of general director. Not having proper education, and the number of people was 960 people with medical education, and I didn't work at any medical institution, so it was very challenging for me. So I covered. I had to grow very quickly. So I had to turn from a tiny flower into a Margaret Thatcher. So how I appeared in healthcare system. My father, who worked, who liked climbing up mountains, had very bad experience, like had medical trauma, and he had spinal trauma. And when I was 19, instead of dating and going out, I had to live 1 year. I spent 1 year in hospital with my father. We had six surgeries, which didn't give result. So what I observed over that year, I observed a lot of people's lives. Neglective driving, such kind of mistakes which cause to bad consequences. And at that time, I saw heroic behavior of doctors who lived their lives together with the patients, and empathy to one and others became part of my vision. And if someone knows me and observes my work, it's the position of defending the prestige of doctors and what they do. This way made me become part of this area. In 10 years, I became head as a deputy, one of the biggest hospitals. It was a private sector, and it's how my career started. Already as a manager, I didn't cover previous levels. Very shortly about organization and what we deal with now. As for today, after I worked in private sector for 17 years. I created a consulting organization which was doing researches in healthcare with the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development on education projects, as we had to deal with education. It was an interesting experience. So as for today, we are 12 years old. We have a lot of directions. What I am proud of, over the last 3 years and a half, we involved almost 1.5 billion hryvnias. It's about medicine and equipment. We covered 970 hospitals, which we provided different supplies. We had a lot of certificates and medical workers, and many other projects which we do. And this report, this speech about the trust. If international partners trust you, it's a credit of trust to us as an organization, a leader, and the money is trusted not directly to money, to hospital, but to organization which has a reputation for us to pass this aid to medical facility. And it works through partnership and trust. Shortly, we deal with many areas, but to shorten, it's about new medicine. It's, it's about our educational programs, mental programs, training in other countries, not just the head of hospitals. For example, we will have in Norway. It's about reintegration and rebuilding. So I am going to talk about when I showed you ranks and who I am and why I'm here. I will talk about my observations. They are mainly based on big number of cooperation and partnership. This about 70 partners who became part of this network with the training, financial aid we do together with our partners. And as for today, we have observed a lot, and I will mention this at the end. I see that earlier and today medicine has become different, and I want to reassure you. Up till recently, healthcare was like there is a niche, there is a service. And they provided the services if there was patient with some needs. And we learned that the patient is like a client, and it was difficult for many to understand, but somehow we agreed with that. Patient and doctor are opponents of communication, one of key directions. This kind of training your teams needed, and all doctors in general. So the trust was a barrier. We are trying to build business process. And in those efforts, we lost a little bit focus on trust between doctor and patients. And this kind of model to cooperation brought to collapse in our relationship.
The collapse lies in the fact that our patients were looking for truthful facts everywhere, in social media, in recommendations, and so on, among guidelines. Because when we have 12 minutes of examination, it's very difficult to give justification of your opinion and provide recommendation. And this is the format during which we lost resources and we spend time treating the consequences, not the reasons. But on the 21st of February 2022, I would like to change the viewpoint, and I want us to understand that this previous contract was over because the war revealed the truth, and we could see that the medicine was based on providing services crashed. War has become stress for us, and it showed up some gaps. Today, the patient is not a case, is not an individual, it's not a client. Patient is a human, is human. This is like a story behind the human. And what is going on now, these are the acts of being humane, because those medics that are doing right now, this is the act of humanism, and this is like a new concept for positioning Ukraine and Ukrainian medicine in the whole world. At least our international partners are saying that health care under war conditions has forcibly become the healthcare of dignity and humanity, the nurses that are taking care of our veterans, the military medics that are helping veterans, also the obstetricians who deliver babies under the missile attacks and in the shelters. These are actually like this, they are live witnesses of the new philosophy, and our international partners are watching this. This is a really real healthcare in Ukraine. This is our great achievement. We do not view it from the side. This is something that we live through. This has become part of our daily activities. This is something, this is our, but in fact, our international partners and donors see incredible humanity that the medical personnel express towards their pension. Sometimes there is no rationality, but there is a lot of humility. This empathy, it's about, because of the psychologists that work with the families, through the doctors that are learning how to communicate by news or critical news. Our family physicians work with people so that they could see mental disorders or the need for referral. So they're basically investing in the country through the human capital. They are investing, they're creating a new trend of taking care of people in general. During the stress of the war that we are going through, our patients don't need just a service. They need a lot of things. First of all, they need the safety feeling. If a surgeon calls you after a surgery, if they refer you somewhere, if they provide, if they participate somehow personally, this evokes the feeling of importance and safety that they get uh, from from surgeon. If a doctor get acknowledged, if they feel passionate about their work and involved, they feel involved and engaged, and they will stay here in Ukraine, because such acknowledgement will not be possible abroad. And this acknowledgement keeps the doctors in Ukraine. This can prevent the brain drain in Ukraine, because this is the act of service. Our context has changed, our healthcare, our medicine. When I visit Sumy, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, so throughout the months, I have visited all 8 cities, and I can see how these acts of services, of servicing to for people take place. So our context has changed, and the entire ideology of our healthcare will have to change as well, from just providing a service to the notion of serving people. 15 years ago, I was the first person who talked about the service in healthcare. People didn't throw tomatoes at me, but otherwise, I faced a lot of hate, even from the state-funded hospitals. But now I can say that the service, what we are doing now, is just fulfilling the instruction. And when comparing to what our medical personnel are doing now, this is basically a vocation. And again, it's about serving people. If we talk about the viewpoint of our international partners who trust our healthcare, they invest billions of hryvnias so that it keeps working. It means that this is all about reputation. The trust forms the positioning of Ukraine. The world is fond of Ukraine. They can see how courageous our doctors are. The world can see these acts of humility, and they are fond of us as the leading country and not the country victim. So reputation and trust, these are strategic assets of Ukraine. So our task is to continue investing into resistance of our reputation and trust. So we have to build up the trust by doing our routine tasks. Reputation is formed only when we are committed, when we promise something and we do it. Only in this way we can build up our muscles. Also to take care of our professional integrity. This is to take decisions in complicated cases under complicated circumstances and do it transparently and clearly. Be worthy of trust that our international partners are demonstrating us. Just last year, Zdorovi as an organization, we did procurement for more than 100 million Ukrainian hryvnias that various funds of different countries have invested to make us procure something important for all of you, something that is in deficit. This is again speaks about the trust, and we have to be worthy of that trust. We as an organization who which gets it, and then you who are using these tools for your work. So trust, this is like something that permeates everything. It's about the positioning of Ukraine in the healthcare all over the world. People entrust us funds because they trust us as a country and a system. So reputation forms the trust. The trust is a soft force which can involve funding, technologies, and support for recovery. International organization are ready to allocate funds to the hospitals and managers who they trust in. We can see crowdfunding campaigns when we raise money inside the country. It's possible if they trust the hospitals. So trust is a soft force. It attracts technologies to rebuild hospitals. You know, there are underground hospitals. It's possible to involve these funds. These are millions of hryvnias. So this is also involves funding for other social projects. So trust unites people. Do you remember the first months of the war? When this through empathy, we managed to do incredible things and could oppose the enemy. We also have transnational collaborations, and we have great projects, for example, joint projects of Ukrainian and international organizations, and they also form future projects for recovery. New social contract has to be different. This philosophy that the state has to solve everything, it has crashed. We don't have to complain to the state because we are the state, we are the country. It's wrong to believe that the state institutions will help us. We are the state that can have impact. So the country state is not a controller or inspector, and doctor is an architect in healthcare. They are leaders of active longevity. So community is not passive consumer, but the active defender, and the patients are responsible for their health, and they are ready to invest in their community as well. New metrics, new KPIs should sound and look differently. We do not treat statistics. We treat people, and each individual has their own story. Old metrics about the number of beds, the number of surgeries do not demonstrate the real impact. But the veteran, if they recover after the rehabilitation, they get a profession, and if they come back to work, they are our real KPI. So we have to return active people to the society who would not need additional financial aid. That's why the task of contemporary doctors is to recover the dignity, also work with mental trauma and not only provide psychological diagnosis to return to full-fledged life and not only to employment. And we should consider each individual separately, not like think that people are figures, what can help us. Of course, I had to insert this slide. I believe in women's leadership. So I have been heading big teams, and these were women's teams because in healthcare there are more women. But I can see that the classical vertical of power doesn't work during the crisis. We need networking, flexible connections, empathy. We need to respond quickly. We should be able to listen to what women can do. And among the most effective managers in healthcare, and we visit a lot of hospitals. So today, so the heads of the department can demonstrate great performance and KPI. So resilience from the bottom is the basis of our society. We are able to overcome any challenges if we are strong in each of our positions. If we should be able to see the system and see the human being at the same time. This is something that is a feature of women. So what is the healthcare of the future? So something that I can trace and what I can see from the viewpoint of international partners. We are at the crossroads now. We can use this historic chance. We will not have another chance, and we can build this new healthcare. Today, our best vision of the brand as of Ukraine. This is like the Ukraine as a innovator, not a victim. Through our humane healthcare, we are viewed by our international partners as an innovating country. Ukraine, which is under the greatest stress and severest crisis, managed to become strong and humane and build a future for its citizens. This is a special mission. It is accompanied with courage. It is based on trust. There are so many challenges, so many losses, but nowadays this is the way it looks like, and it should look like from the viewpoint of international partners. So the role of our organization and doctors, Dorovi, is a platform of trust. The partners trust us. They trust us with resources, internships, purchases, procurement, to integrity checks. But without you, it's impossible. Ukrainian doctors, you form this invaluable Ukrainian experience. You turn this experience into a special set of tools, and you build the humane healthcare. Our task is unite and not only to build the city of the future, but to build the future when no bridges are necessary. So this was my reflection. The healthcare is changing as I can see it. Maybe we do not notice it because we are inside it. We live through it every day. We work in it through every day. But if you have a look at it from the top, if you can see it from the viewpoint of the person who works with hundreds of hospitals and tens of partners who also watch you, but from the position of those who live abroad, then today Ukrainian healthcare looks like this. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nataliya. Maybe do we have questions? Big thanks, Ms. Nataliya, for your speech, for your philosophy that you shared. I would like to thank you because you are the woman in healthcare who is not a doctor, but you inspire me as a doctor. And I would like to say that it is you, your posts, your lectures, everywhere where I came across your activities, you remind me, you make me remember why I decided to become the part of the healthcare system, even though it was difficult for me as a mother. So thank you for your energy and your inspiration. I'm really happy that now I can say thank you to you and your team of your organization, because you did a great job for hospitals. The trust that you have and the things you do. Also, I would like to say that, dear colleagues, these are great materials to support our doctor. There is a great online course of mental support for medical staff, and these are those tools who help us managers, because we can share a link, we can give some pieces of advice. And I remember doctors who learned how to communicate with veterans. It was also launched by your organization. They have great tools. Please join in, and thank you again. Any other questions?
Good day from Institute of Cancer. I wanted to say thank you for purchasing for 168 million. It's unbelievable. You have very well organized everything. Even the biggest hospitals can't afford such things. I will say why such amount. It's because we have a lot of equipment. What I wanted to ask, it's very well that we are perceived in such way by our international partners. Very well that they trust us. Will it be such kind of like deception of success as we form such image? As I worked in the ministry, now I work in the Institute of Cancer. A lot of mistakes. A lot of problems in different departments. For example, entire world sees how doctor walks around in the around the patients, gets a lot of likes, but in fact he is spreading the infection and he breaks the rules of protocol. But everyone sees that and supports us. And instead of changing such things and improving and centralized medical care, and to treat the heavy trauma where it is needed, to treat the burns where it is needed, we just look at the total support. We see a lot of donor aid, and we might think, okay, I also want to donor support, and we may get at risk when we take wrong steps, which do not help patients, but which look nice, like externally. Because nobody talks and will report about not successful case. Everyone will show only successful cases, some nice photos, popular in social media. This kind of image which appears, which helps us to involve resources, but on the other side, relaxes us on keeping to rules and protocols. Thank you for a question. First of all, these are two processes which go like parallelly, and talking about our position in the world and experience, we are not known by healthcare system. We have to do homework. We have to deal with them in mistakes, and of course we have to resistance. And it should be important for each medical facility to learn the feedback. But international partners see that aid can be eliminated. When we had 270 visits, it's where maximum aid was supplied. We had four cases when we took away the aid, and they convinced the donors that we would will not be bad consequence for them, but they had those violations, and we had to take away things we supplied to them. We sent him like a letter to the Ministry of Healthcare, because there are many hospitals which are waiting for equipment. They need to understand that we will come and supply them with the equipment they need. Of course, we cannot do everything on the level of our organization. We have checked 270 such medical facilities, but we have more than 300. Of course, not each will get this amount of aid, but it's a big systematic work. And I think that when we have, mm, when we can learn these things, not just for nice image, but for medics and nurses do proper work. Why some medical facilities in this way, not way? Why people who didn't have a medical education started this work? And at this moment of our compassion and solidarity with the patient, we have to do a lot for Euro integration. Evidence-based medicine is our homework, and it cannot be cancelled. Everyone on his level, starting with the institution and on state level. We are the state. Each of us has to do their own work. Thank you, Miss Natalia, for a very beautiful report and speech, for nice networking and communication. We have two more speeches. So the next speaker is Nataliya Komashko. She's a doctor, head of Ukrainian Association, the head of international mission, Fuse the Future Ukraine. Good day, colleagues. It's an honor for me to be here and to talk about our work. I will say shortly about myself. I work in a regional hospital in Ivano-Frankivsk region. And before a full invasion, I did like endoscopic surgeries, and I could not imagine that during the war I will start organizing and heading international missions and dealing with the treatment of heavy injuries. I want to say that managers program at the Kyivo-Mogilyanska Academy, which was very useful for me, and this knowledge was very useful. And when I prepared this presentation, I remember that I had a relation to the mission because my father is a surgeon. And in Soviet times, he went to Africa on international missions, and I came with him, and I lived 1 year in Alger. Why the missions are important? I want to say shortly about the statistics of injuries. Well, we don't have it. We understand why, but there is a data in World Health Organization. It's that 17,053,500 it's among civilians. So we can multiply it by 2 for military. Our president mentioned 400,000, but the number is much higher. And only our team received 2,000 requests with injuries of neck and head. So the number of casualties increases. That's why it's important to have such missions, and international expertise is very important. I want to say how it started at the beginning of full invasion in 22. Colleagues addressed us. They told us that the group of doctors wanted to come to Ukraine, and they wanted to help with their expertise. They were looking for a clinic in Western Ukraine. A lot of clinics refused, and they addressed our hospital, and the management agreed they asked me if I do take this responsibility, we could agree. Yes, it was scary for everyone and also for American colleagues who came to Ukraine. They didn't know the categories of patients and casualties. We also didn't know what to expect. We couldn't understand the category of injuries. So the number of requests was going up and up. There were doubts, but we started in July for the first mission. I want to say that a decisive point to agree to this organization was that my brother was at front line, and I was talking a lot about that, and he told me that he could be one of them, and it what convinced me. That's why we did this work. We did surgeries, 33 surgeries. We spent 1 week. Of course, we had mistakes. It was a very big, first big scale mission in Ukraine. We had 20 colleagues from the USA, doctors from all around Ukraine. We did a lot. We had mistakes, and we started processing our mistakes, and the number of requests was going up and up, and we realized that we had to do something with that. We had to systemize, make those situations systematic, and in the process, we met Peters Adams, who has a very big experience in international missions. He did 50 of them. He's a professor from Canada, and in the process of work, we had two aspects: case management, management, and partnership. What is case management? As we have a very heavy traumas from all around Ukraine, we need to prepare them for operation. Operations are very complex with the different doctors and different kinds of physicians. That's why we had to prepare a plan of operation. We needed to understand if we needed some technological technologies, as majority of the patients were military. And when they came to us, we gave them hope, and we had to do the surgery. That's why all patients we were understanding which case could be done by Ukrainian doctors. There were cases which we made decision that they had to be done by foreign surgeons. Very rarely we cancel some cases. And on this mission, partners spent a lot of money to do them. All the paperwork we keep in digital version and save in folders because it's easier to provide consulting in Zoom every Sunday, and it's easier for patients who switch from one mission to another because there are different stages of this aid. Partnership on this slide, you cannot not see all partners who help us with those missions, but there are the key. It's Razum, Face the Future Foundation by Peter Adams, company Materialize, and of course Ivan Frankivsk, my hospital, where we host those missions. And I'm very proud that the number of those partners is going up, and more people want to participate. And the very important element of those missions is the training, because if doctors just come, do the surgery, and we will not learn anything, it will be just like an aid, help to the patients. But we should understand that we will not have always foreign surgeries. That's why we have in like a team of different team of our doctors and their doctors. They are people which have a very high level of degrees. We do online conferences. We have done 6 international medical missions. We had the 5 international symposium. 2,500 participants took part. It's very important not to close the knowledge in one place. We are open for all doctors for in Ukraine, and they have possibility to take part. And it's very important as they can apply these techniques in their hospitals. We had 192 surgeries for patients who had trauma of neck or head, and 48 where they had implantations and the newest technologies. You can see this as my hand. It's a Belgium company. They created such models. They work with us since full invasion. There is a problem which the bone is missing, and they print this material using computer tomography. So it's important for us to learn for us. So mainly, if we do 38 operations, most of patients have such things. And when I was in Harvard, in Nelia Marnechuk, she agreed for me to visit the surgeries, and he was doing such the implement installing of implants, and I told him that I knew the producer. The doctor told me that he was supposed to surprise me. He called that engineer and he said, "Look, this is the doctor from Ukraine, and they know about that. Like, yes, it's Peter Adamson's team, and this doctor from Harvard also came to Ukraine with Dr. Adamson. So we have possibilities to do that, to help patients, and it's what we are doing. And there they do it for free, and it's their initiative. It's very important that during such missions we do the training for nurses. There are different activities, but it's very essential for me that for the next symposium, doctors are getting registered, and they want to bring nurses here. So everything we do gives it fruits, and we are very happy about that. Also, we've signed a memorandum about cooperation with the Peter Adams, and we want all these lessons learned shouldn't be only in Ukraine. They can be spread, and now we are learning post-traumatic syndromes, and many people have, even doctors, even nurses. And the numbers are very threatening. It's interesting to know about them, and we presented the results of our work at a Rhino Forum in Warsaw and in Dublin. And during those missions, people said they are interested in us spreading such knowledge and experience. We hope that the world will not need this knowledge, but it might be useful for oncology, trauma, and this experience is very key for spreading. And we are planning the publications for sharing. And we are planning the next mission, which will start on the 26th of October. And we have a lot of cooperation in our plans. Any questions?
Two questions. Thank you. I have just a comment. I wanted to thank you for what you are doing, and it was pleasure to see our colleagues from Bohomolets University, Mr. Kopchak and Polivoda. So we are discussing with my colleague that this is really great contribution and the use of progressive technologies that save life and improve the quality of life. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to join in gratitude from the viewpoint of lessons learned from the project that has been taking place for 3 years. If you could return back to 2022, would you change something? Are you willing to change something if you were to initiate a similar project right now? Maybe you would like to involve other team members or so on to make it as successful as possible. Of course, looking back to what experience we have and what knowledge we have, it would be nice to share this knowledge with young doctors. And we have an idea of having the center of excellence where we could involve international experts and have a learning centers not only for Ukrainian specialists but for the international colleagues. Yes, that would be a great precedent, taking into account what experience and background we have. And a short question: the window of opportunity is limited. You started in 2022 and there was support. Can you feel that the interest is still stable, or is this interest in Ukraine is decreasing? You mean the support from international partners? Because there is difference between those colleagues that were present in US in 2022 and now they feel that there is a difference in the degree of support. International partners are getting less enthusiastic. What do you think? We don't feel it, actually. I would say the interest is on a proper level. The interest is increasing. We are cooperating closely during the missions and during the period between the missions. We had also some research collaboration. But as soon as the research project started, for them it's very important. It's very beneficial to them as well. That's why we also share our expertise with them. We bring them, we provide them with interesting patients. So I think it will all shift to learning and research. That's why it's important. So I think this keeps up their interest. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to cooperate so well, and we wouldn't have signed MOU. I think that we have like mutual collaboration. And the doctors that are visiting us, we have two teams, two missions. We have spring mission and fall mission. They are rotating because it's their free time and their holidays. So when they come to Ukraine, they are very proud of participating in such missions. Sometimes some even visit Ukraine twice a year. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nataliya. And if you witnessed or maybe participated in the organization of such mission, then you can imagine which great work is its foundation. Is in its foundation. I really wish you more opportunities to treat so many severe patients. We are moving on. And our last speaker, but not least, Ms. Ivanna Sakhanda, the Director of International Mobility, and she will speak about the role of global partnership and the role of international cooperation in reinforcing medical education system. I am really grateful to our colleagues and team for the invitation, and we are honored today to represent National Medical University named after Bohomolets. This is a great event, a great conference, and thanks to all who have stayed so far. And because it's the last speech, and it's really difficult to stay during all the presentations. So thank you again. Today, I am representing our Bohomolets University, myself as a head of international mobility and grant projects. I can talk a lot about myself and the university, especially the university, because I have graduated from it. I'm a pharmacist by education. And with great pleasure, it is my great pleasure to talk about my university. I always share some news about it because we all know that at the higher education establishment, if we work there, we spend there more time than at home. That's why at work we have our second family that we devote a lot of time to. And we of course, want to share our common efforts and achievements with other colleagues. As I've already mentioned it, our university is 185 years old, 60 clinical departments. These are great academicians, professors, residents. Also, these are almost 9,000 of students. Under the conditions of war, we understand that there are less students from abroad, but still we continue to work. We do the reskilling and upskilling activities, and we involve students to enter our university. At least we encourage them to study online. We hope that the war will be over and our foreign students will come back to us, not only to study, but also to work. Excuse me. These are our research works. These are almost 2,000 articles a year. Each fifth of them is published in Scopus journal. These are foreign presentations, speeches, and this is numbers. It is rated number 3 and rated for as 14, rated number 14. When it comes to scientific impact, our university has a high ranking among the international medical institutions. So there is university clinic that is functioning. It has inpatient and outpatient treatment, and there are also family doctors and dentists. At our university clinic, we treat our students, our personnel, and our combatants, which we are very proud of. These are 68 domains of international cooperation. These are 23 international education and scientific projects. Our personnel are members of editing, are editors of many foreign journals. They are really proficient in foreign languages, and we help them to climb up the career ladder by providing different courses at our university. That's why we encourage everyone to participate in foreign forums. Our university, as any other medical education establishment, has its own development strategy. Our strategy up to 2030 is creating and spreading the knowledge to use the best practices in education, science, and healthcare to improve health. Our vision is to be the leader among the medical universities integrated into European university community. We have our values. This is person centrism. This is first of all because we have students and our personnel, and everyone is respected. They are supported in their individual development. Another value, this is innovation. This is humanism, integrity, openness, adaptability. So why are we talking today about international cooperation? I would like to mention that international cooperation is not only a new vector for education, but this is a very critical aspect of any institution. If international cooperation is not broadened, then not a single university will have any future perspectives. As of now, we have some global challenges. This is, first of all, the war, and we understand that international partners, these are those people who supported us at the beginning of the war and continue supporting us by providing to do internships abroad, to do courses, high-level courses. And remember that we are expected abroad and that we are given opportunities to develop, and that this development can be continued in our medical institutions. Our university has 39 MOUs, 28 cooperation agreements, 63 members are editors of foreign journals, 344 representatives heading the international professional associations. International cooperation, it's not just internships, it's not just communication in the foreign language, it's self-development, it's development of all medical personnel and each student who are studying at our university. That's why we work with our partners every day. We prepare the students for further development within our university, and we prepare them for the global impact. An important stage of our mobility cooperation, this is involvement of in Erasmus Plus academic mobility program. I know that you most probably know that there are other mobility programs available, but this is the program that we use for 80% with our partners. When there is internships for our personnel and our students, they can study and have internship in great clinics and departments, and they cannot only acquire knowledge, but also share the knowledge how these things are taking place in our country. Each country is fond of their people, but when being Ukrainian, our students and personnel travel abroad, and they always say how different dentistry, pharmacology are developing in Ukraine and how eager we are to share our knowledge. Maybe we don't have specific equipment, but thanks to our partners, we cover this gap, fill this gap, and we have the opportunities to move on and develop. We work in different domains, and apart from Erasmus Plus, we have other grant projects. This is Horizon, Eurozone, DAT, and other. What's important when it comes to grants? Not everyone is aware that grants, these are not only funds. This is an opportunity to demonstrate the level of our personnel as students abroad and take up the proper spot in the world, knowing how professional our doctors, pharmacists, and dentists and rehabilitologists are. Those people help us, our competence every day, and recover and continue to work and defend our country. So grants are an important stage without which in the future none of the educational establishments will be able to develop, since this is an opportunity to get funds, to fund labs, equipment, to buy equipment, to fund internships. And thanks to innovation opportunities and grant projects, our university has been cooperating with 3 projects. The first grant project, so we have our colleague here, she is the participant. So this is transformation from medical education in Ukraine, digital transformation. It is planned for 3 years. Maybe we didn't start working with it on time, but up to 2024, we had been applying for it. Maybe not all the partners saw us as promising, but in 2024, finally, our university is able to work in Erasmus Plus Horizon, which is for next 8 years. 16 universities are involved to this program. So here we are not talking about funds. The amount is not big, but this is an opportunity to represent ourselves, to present ourselves, and to receive additional experience. When I'm worried, sorry, I always want to drink. This is grant project Horizon. It's a kind of a branch project of Horizon. They cooperate with our partners in Germany, and they develop the given project since 2024. Nowadays, there was a development of internal molecular mechanism. These were internships. These were the opportunities at our faculty and in our lab to develop this project, having received equipment from our partners, and it created opportunities. And we can already implement this, start implementing this project within our university. We have a completed grant project, recovery and creation of educational programs on digital competencies from USAID. It was frozen, but this is the first project that our university presented on the international arena, which is particularly which university is particularly proud of. And digitalization is the sphere that is developing in the first place, and thanks to this grant project we have renewal of some teaching materials. We have effective methods of for assessment. So this is a project where it all started, because without digitalization nowadays it's complicated to work. That's why our departments, which readily join the project, this is medical and biological physics, management, they are the participants of the given project. They have completed the project.
These projects now for them, it's a new project, the support of Ukrainian universities, like higher education establishments, and our colleagues work at the Department of Polish University, which we have grant projects on implementation of writing course books in 2 languages, 3 languages, and 4 languages. So the partners are the sponsors of those books, and we hope that in future, except for training, we'll keep our cooperation. Unfortunately, the projects in the sphere that are not so active, they were more effective before full invasion, and Ukrainian partners were more involved. Now it's more difficult to take part in those grant projects, but we show our interest. We apply for participation. We are working not just in this area of medicine. We also apply for educational grants to have a nice cooperation, maybe medicine or education or combination of them. We are open to each of the projects, and we are always grateful to our partners. Maybe these projects will not be selected, but it's an experience for us, and it helps us moving forward in the international area. So the academic mobility develops very well. Experts do the training in Warsaw Medical University every 6 months. Interns and students annually do the training on the qualification works and writing their PhD works. So the workers of a university participate in the project accomplished by Finnish project. And as for today, we have joined course development on simulation technologies. The specialty of public health care takes part in the program of European Union Erasmus+. Teachers take part and administrative personnel where they have a 2 weeks training at in Sweden. And we participate in this Ukrainian-Swedish project, and colleagues who are here can confirm my words. We are trying not to miss any event. These are those people who always give us possibility to implement our ideas, show our people, our experts abroad, and they give this kind of motivation where not each other partner may provide. So we are very grateful to them as one of realization of these projects. Our workers were involved to strategic session where we have the developed plan of our university. We participate to Ukrainian program of mental health care. These are international projects in psychology. As for today, our workers are certified trainers of AMH. Okay. Other challenges, yes, of course, but probably each higher education establishment has challenges. These are those ideas and that purpose which we are trying to achieve, maybe dream, which we are trying to achieve with our partners in order to our university, in order to see our university on the first positions so we understand not always we understand that medical workers can take part in grant projects on education, ecology, and information systems. So we apply and the partners answer to us, and the request may be very nice, but there could be different things when we get refusal, and we do not always understand what we should improve. All workers want to participate. We want to show university the best light, but there is not always a possibility to find out the way how to do it. The cultural barriers have always existed, and we involve our workers to learn languages of different languages like Italian, French. Our partners are trying to help us with the grants, teaching for free. These are different kind of difficulties and not sufficient financing, because when we do the description of some project, it's not always what the university is going to receive. When we describe what we would like to see, and partners tell what they would like to see, our thoughts are not always the same. Of course, we find a common solution, but in the process, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a grant, you will get salary. No, it's a very long and big work where a lot of people have to take part. A lot of admin, like different fields workers. You need to have people from financial department, planning, those who are not relevant to international department to prepare the very request and application is not possible. So only with the help of a team which can join, implement, and do that project effective as much as possible. That's why I want to pay attention that our university, we are moving forward, and we are always happy for new meetings, partnership. If you talk about international level, we shouldn't forget about our national level. As we all talk about that we want doctors to receive experience abroad, come here and treat people. We forget that when person goes abroad, gets this knowledge, possibilities, and it's not what we have in Ukraine. And unfortunately, that workers have a possibility stay doing their PhD works there. That's why I would like to explain my vision that gaining international experience, we shouldn't forget that we need to implement it here in Ukraine, develop our country, and do everything possible while gaining international experience for us being on the same level as our partners who shared this experience. So thank you for this possibility. Thank you to our partners. Thank you to each of you. And I want to say one dream for all. The war was over, and for us to have more motivation to work and develop. If there are questions, and welcome for cooperation. Any questions? Thank you. No, there is a question. My name is Alexandra. The institute is my alma mater. Don't look at my comment negatively. I saw your presentation. So it meant that at each slide, it meant that everything is perfect, that we cooperate. The question is the polyphene. We are on the 14th level in rating. we are on the third place. Why can't we be on the first place? We are national university, medical national university in Kyiv. We have a lot of professors, students. What doesn't give us possibility to be on the first place? What's your vision? For me, as for person who had some different career progressions, I was abroad, I came back, I am implementing here. I see that something doesn't coincide. Yesterday, it was mentioned about necessity of high quality of medicine, but when I listen to you, everything is perfect. It's probably that I love our university, and then I want to say only the best things about our university. It's clear that each educational institution has its advantages and disadvantages. Saying what rating, what level of we are in that rating, it's like low motivation between among our lecturers. Maybe those articles wouldn't be so expensive because we wouldn't like to be published in quarter 4 but in 1, and the price of such articles is very, very high. Even when we get plus 10 workers to be the co-authors, it doesn't cover financial expenses. It may be one of options. We created the Center of Mobility and Projects in June. We are moving forward, and maybe because earlier we didn't have such possibility of positive participation in grants and projects. As we have had 3 grant projects, we can also be coordinators. We do ongoing trainings, meetings with our teachers. Just it's a pity that not every worker we don't know. Sometimes we need some grants to survive. We don't know how long the war is going to last and how we will pay salaries and the possibilities to cover all the payments, and not reducing the payment, but having the future potential for this. I would say that our university is the best for us, as we stayed here. We didn't move abroad. Yes, we have some advantages, and we are trying to develop. We cooperate with the partners, and we are sure that next year we will have better rating and will be on higher level than we are here today. Thank you. Thank you to all participants of this session. Also, we have award ceremony of a poster session and dinner where you can continue your discussions.